Everybody's back in front of their computer now, and we're going to welcome Dan De Palma, goaltending coach of the Kamloops Blazers since 2008. He spent 3 seasons as the goaltending coach with the Prince George Cougars before that. Since joining the Blazers, some of the names he's worked with that a lot of you will recognize, well, there's a lot of them, but some of the more recent ones that have all signed an NHL contract: Connor Ingram, Cole Keeler, a guy I've had a chance to be on the ice with up in the interior, and Dylan Ferguson, friend of In Goal Magazine, Dylan Ferguson. Now signed a prospect with the Vegas Golden Knights and currently testing our CCM Access equipment for us down in Victoria. So without further ado, welcome Dan De Palma, and looking forward to your presentation on traffic management.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Kevin. Batting last here. I often liked batting last in baseball because I got to see everything that might get thrown at me over the course of a couple of days. So, you know what? I was always the optimist when I got put in the 9th slot instead of the 1st slot. So got to see what pitches might come and whatnot. And I think hopefully what I can do here at the end of a couple great days is kind of maybe bring some of this all back together. I think a lot of the things that we've talked about should come up in the presentation, and it's a real neat opportunity to present. So I'm really humbled by it. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Schwartzy and Greg Thompson and the rest of our group. Thanks to Hockey Canada, and especially thanks to Kevin and David for the nice job within goal. So when Schwartzy asked me to talk about traffic, he knows I'm in transportation. I thought he wanted me to put some cones and some dotted lines out and figure out how we get around communities. And then after I showed him that presentation, he said, no, I do want you to speak about hockey. So here we are. So we're going to talk a little bit about traffic management as it pertains to hockey and not to transportation. So a little bit of history here, just for what it's worth. You know, I used to work for the Prince George Cougars. So started in this league as a coach back in 2006, moved over to the Blazers in 2009. So I've been in the league for a long time, and I've been really, really fortunate. I've worked with a lot of good people and really been put in a lot of various roles. Eye in the sky, we talked about, on the bench at times, like just whatever's needed. Just really tried to come to the rink and just think, how am I going to support the group? You know, I'm not there every day. I'm not there all day. So how am I going to come in and try to help make a difference as a coach and just be part of the solution? And that mentality has helped me a lot, as opposed to coming in and thinking you've got it all licked on a Friday when guys have been there since Monday, and really just come, listen, support, and be ready with some solutions if you can help. I've had a lot of great mentors and teachers. I mean, a lot of people on this call I owe thanks to. I'm not even going to get into it, but you know, so much help over the years and whatnot from not only the staffs that I've been fortunate enough to work with, but just other goalies and coaches in the league. For whatever reason, they've been really kind and generous with me, and I think that's really important because it goes to the theme of what we've talked about here today. You know, for me, I think we've heard it in a few different presentations. You really have to have a quest for knowledge and learning. I think if you do, you'll always continue to get better. You're always looking for ways to get better. Even in the last 3 months, what can we do to get better? How can I leverage what I do during the day to help me at the rink, and vice versa? I'm really fortunate. 2 different paths, you know, one that puts food in the fridge. Hockey certainly doesn't for me. But they really feed into each other well. And I'm fortunate. And I think, you know, I'd really encourage you guys to look at, you know, anything you can outside of hockey to continue to learn and bring to the rink, and vice versa, and just keep learning every day. And I touched on it, you know, in terms of mentors and collaboration. I really feel I say it, I'm the poster boy for collaboration within this fraternity. You know, I come at this thing and have had so much collaboration go my way that you know, I've drank the Kool-Aid. I know what it's all about. So anytime there's a chance to do something like this, I'm really humbled that, you know, I'm on the other side of it a little bit, but we'll learn way more than I'll ever give. So that's a little bit of the history and a little bit of a story. So traffic management, you know, to me, traffic can be as confusing as you want to make it. And I'm going to just try to simplify it, and right, wrong, or indifferent, I'm going to try to bring to you what we do and what I believe in when it comes to traffic, the keys and the must-haves. We talked to non-negotiables, however you like to communicate that with your players and your athletes. But for me, it's really back to the same keys. It's tracking, it's, you know, head trajectory, a lot of different ways to describe it. But for me, what that means is the ability to see, the ability to move, and the ability to access a puck. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into the video, but you have to see, we talked about vision earlier in the day. Like Scott did a great job. I mean, you know, he talked about it the whole session. And I find a lot of times with traffic, we can look for other things and we forget the simple tracking component. And the first thing is we got to see. We got to have vision. We got to have the ability to see. Ability to move really just means I've got to have enough of an athletic stance. I've got to have my head on the puck so I can actually move and make a save. And then accessing the puck is just that second save. We saw Mooks go through a lot of really good video there. And, you know, what do we do next? Or can we get our hands on a puck? Can we cover a puck? Can we poke a puck with our stick away? Can we pull it back in and cover it up? And can we continue to do something after that first save, or maybe that puck off a skate when there's so much traffic and things that happen? Obviously, position's important. You got to get there early. You know, I always say early's good. Be early in everything you can do. The movement that goes with the tracking, obviously, and then the ice awareness, the scans, the checks, you know, understanding whether it's a pre-scout or understanding in the middle of the game. You know, we talk about reads. For me, just let's develop the checks. Let's be checking what's going on around us every chance we can when it's safe, and we're going to develop some good reads, some good habits, and make more saves. You know, the other keys that we talk about in the group, and Schwartzy brought to us, you know, we've got to compete. You want guys with character and habits and detail. And why that's relevant here, I think, is, you know what, traffic, you're in the glue a little bit. It's tougher. And we heard people say, like Vasilevsky earlier today, I think Dave said, you know, there's so much traffic over here. And so you've got to have that level of compete, and even that character, that you embrace the adversity of traffic, that you're not passive, that you know, you want to handle the traffic, that you're not going to be passive, and you're going to do the right things in order to battle through the traffic and really outwork the traffic. And obviously the habits and details that you form before you get to the game and to that situation, they're going to pay off. They're just going to be natural for you. And I think you want to have as much of that in play as you can. So, you know, if you're learning on the job all the time, it's probably not a good thing. If the analogy I brought earlier, if you're studying for the exam on the day of, not a good thing. Let's study before so that we can just play and have those habits. So like I said earlier, I think these are consistent in all situations and all the things we've talked about for the last 2 days. And for me, again, it's just, how do we break down something that may be not so easy to break down and just break it down into its simplest form? So for me, a lot of times our video sessions and our traffic management discussions, we'll just throw these words up on the board, and did we do these things? And then if we did those things well, oftentimes it tends to work well. You know, I'm a big believer in, you know, the job is to respond to what comes at us, right? You'll see the little clip down on the right for us older folks that remember that skit on Saturday Night Live. But it is really, to me, a point counterpoint job to some degree. You know, as much as we think we're going to dictate the game, somebody said earlier, the game comes to us. Let the game come to us. So what's coming to us? What are the opposing coaches and players trying to do, and what are they saying? Oh, we hear on television all the time, you know, good color guys, bad color guys, can't stop what he can't see. Coaches say, let's get in his eyes. So our response has to be, we've got to see, we've got to work to see. We've got to have that willingness to work to see pucks. Don't overwork. You know, we talked about earlier, you make that positional adjustment, or somebody said earlier, I got a lane, I can see in that lane, keep that lane. Nothing wrong with that. We don't have to overwork, but let's make sure we fight to get into that lane and work to see. And then we've got to compete. We've got to find a way to compete with the traffic and the bodies. We can't necessarily allow ourselves to get bumped. And we've got to get great positioning. Be early if you can. Get to your position. Find your comfort zone. Different for every guy. Different for every situation. But those things are critical. Outwork the goalie. This is one I learned along the way. So I won't say where it was, but we happened to go into a room after a game. Just stumbled in another team's room. Sorry, it was our room, but the scouting report was up from the night before, and we saw it, and it was outwork the goalie. We got to outwork this guy, and it was our goalie. So I thought, okay, well, they don't think our goalie works hard enough. So if we're going to outwork the goalie, then we've got to have a response to that. We got to outwork the shooters. They're going to try to create chaos. We've got to find a way to deal with that. They're going to work to score. Like I heard Scott Murray's presentation on NHLCA, and he talked about, you know, we don't want to make it easy for our guys. We don't want to make it so our guys think it's easy to score on a guy. So I don't show bad goals, he said. And I thought that was really interesting because I was kind of the same mind, but I never heard anybody say that. So, you know what? We're going to make them work to score. No easy goals. So our response is we're going to outwork the shooters. Simple. We do that even traffic management or not. Practices, we're outworking the shooters all day, every day. That's paramount. We got to be in control. We got to have the ability to move, because when there is that chaos, when there's that play that hits a skate or does something that's unexpected or even expected, we got to have the ability to move and track into that movement. And battle with our head is another term I like to use. And we can't do that if we don't have the ability to move. We're going to get sloppy, we're going to stretch, and we're going to be on our butt or on our stomach, things we want to try to avoid. And really just, again, movement recovery just dovetails off what we're just talking about there. Hear a lot of people talk about deception that they're trying to create. The coaches and players want screens, tips, feeds, fakes, off skates. All kinds of things can happen when there's bodies and layers and whatnot. So our response has to be, again, we got to see, we got to track. We got to be aware of where those other threats are. So getting your checks in, pre-scouts, we've heard a lot about. It's very important. We've got to evolve. We can't just be, hoping that, what we do is good enough. We've got to know our competition. I don't know too many boxers that get in a ring and don't know what their competition is going to do. You're going to get punched in the face pretty quick. Hockey IQ and reads, I think, are critical. I think Mook said it just now. We got to put more investment into hockey IQ for the goalies. I agree. I mean, it's an important part. You got to understand the game. You got to be a student of the game. We got to understand the game as a whole, as it comes to us, not just from the crease out, as we heard earlier this week, and be able to read it. And again, I'm going to beat this one up. Be early, be set. If you can be early and be set, whether it's traffic or not, you're gonna solve a lot of problems and be able to handle the next thing that comes at us pretty well. The other thing they're going to try and do is cause hesitation. They're going to try to cause delay. And we saw that great this morning on the video. We're going to track. If we track and we really trust our tracking and go, head goes, then I go is a terminology we use. Head goes, you go. We're not just going for the sake of going. It's going to give us the right routes. It's going to eliminate delay. It's going to do a lot of things to help us and solve some challenges that we're going to have when they're trying to cause that hesitation with layers of traffic that maybe force us to delay getting across for a pass that might happen. Okay, so we're going to get into some clips. I don't have too many, but really I think what I want to do here is I've got a couple of notes. Just focus on the keys and must-haves to break down for opportunities here. When in doubt, we defer to the keys. I mentioned that earlier. In the video, usually the positives always outnumber the negatives. I think that's an important part of delivering the video to your goaltenders and to your athletes. And here's something that I remember Bill Ranford said to me, and it doesn't mean in a negative way, but we can do it this way until it doesn't work, and then maybe we got to find our way or do it a different way, and maybe that different way is the goalie's way. But have that willingness to try. Another thing that I always use, and Corey McNabb said it, and the old rule of coaches and presentations is you have to just recognize the person that said it once, and then it can become yours. But Corey gets credit for this all the time. He said once, you go to a skateboard park and you watch a bunch of kids doing all these tricks, but you don't see any coaches there, do you? They're just on their own. They're working together, or they're working independently, and they're just trying things and learning and figuring their way through things that they've seen somebody else do. So I think there's a lot to that. I think have that skateboard park mentality, not just when it comes to traffic, but when it comes to coaching. Start the drill. Don't overcoach it. Might learn something. Ask the goalies. You might learn something. They might learn something. I think it's a great way to develop trust. And then they'll come to you. They'll come to you and say this. And I got a neat story for you, as it doesn't pertain to traffic, but we have a goalie that said to me once, you're not going to like where I hold my glove. I'd never seen him play. I'd never seen him play. He was new to our organization. It's the first training camp. I said, okay. And you're not going to like it. You're going to try to change me. I said, I'm not going to try to change you. If it works, then we're fine. And if it doesn't work, then you'll probably want to change yourself. And it was about a year later, and he's watching video. He goes, you told me you weren't going to try and change my glove. Look how much it's changed already. And I said, well, you know what? At some point we figure it out, and you'll figure it out if you care enough, right? Now, maybe you have to be a little more assertive than that at times, but some guys are special enough, they'll just figure it out on their own. So what I'm going to do with these clips, I don't have too many. I want to stay on time here. So I'm just going to let the clips run once on their own. We can watch it. And then I'm going to just kind of do a little stop and start on the second time on the clip, just so that we can talk our way through it. So here's the first clip. Pretty good player coming down the wing with a pretty good shot. Brownie's probably sitting right in this vantage point here. And let's watch it here again. So what you got here is, you know what, the puck's at the point. Nothing really for traffic there. Does a nice job. That's a big thing for me there earlier, okay? It's a pass across the top, but he doesn't delay, gets there, gets himself set. And what that does now is as the screen arrives, he's aware of the screen arriving. You know, he likes to have a little separation, what he does. So he's got his hand up there. He's got the glove. He's got the separation he wants. And now, you know what? Now he's in a position to figure it out. Now, right here, he's got to make a choice. If he's got to pick a side, and he takes a side that's given him. And because he's early, he picks the side. And now this is just just becomes a tracking drill. So he sees the player, he sees the release, and he decides he's just going to track from one side of the release to the other. All right. Makes it look pretty routine. It's a pretty good save with a pretty good shooter. And you know what? Again, it's just a matter of being early to start, having good foundation, tracking into the puck through the screen. Okay, let's watch it again. Okay, so the puck goes a little staggered, low high. They're going to work the top. They're going to work their way downhill, and it's the same guy. He likes to shoot the puck. So our pre-scout tells us he likes to shoot the puck. Once again, he's got his separation with his glove. He likes that. He's in a more elevated stance, which is fine. He's ready to move. He's still ready to receive, okay? So, you know what? Right, wrong, or indifferent, I think if you can be in a full stance as the puck gets closer, you know, Schwartzy was talking about that line that you're comfortable with where you need to be in a full stance versus not. But the ability to move is key. You got to be in an athletic stance, and you got to be able to move so you can track. He's got his lane already. He's in a good 3/4 stance. He tracks the puck all the way, and he keeps another puck. There's 2 pucks he's kept there in some difficult spots because it starts with really good tracking, finishes with really good tracking, regardless of the fact that there's traffic. Okay, and I might oversimplify this, guys. It might need more depth, but again, this is what, for me, we try to do. We just try to keep chaotic situations simple. Try and keep the game as simple as we can. Okay. So we'll do that one again. All right. So again, it's a little low, high, middle of the ice. Okay. Schwartzy talked a lot with me. You know, he's been a good mentor here, and I'm not blowing smoke. You know, a lot of times PKs and team strategies will try to keep pucks out of the middle of the ice. Too many layers, too many guys. But he does a nice job here again. You know what? He decides he's going to be in an elevated stance. He's comfortable with it. That's fine. He still has the ability to move. He picks the lane. He can see. So he can track because he can see. He's made a priority seeing. We talked about kids earlier. I remember being on the ice with 6-year-olds and pointing to my eyes. You have to see everything. See. If we see today, we're good. We can figure out the rest. So he does a nice job seeing. And once again, he does a really good job of seeing on one side through layers. He's athletic and he tracks to the other side. No rebound again. Okay, I'm sure he spits some rebounds. Don't get me wrong, but you know, he's done a nice job thus far in the clips. Okay, pretty simple one. Guys walking down the flank again. We'll show that one again here. Again, early. Okay, really easy to be early there, but regardless, he's early. Okay, decides he's going to get into a full stance because he's got the lane, he's got the separation he likes, he's set. And now it's just a simple be patient, right? He doesn't overwork, right? So he makes it look easy. It's not a bad thing, right? Whether this is the best clip or not to show it, he has his lane, he keeps his lane, he stays patient and calm, doesn't overplay it, and makes a pretty good save. And because he's patient, calm, and he can see, he can move, he keeps a puck. Okay, we want to keep pucks. You know what? Our team, every team wants to outshoot the other team. And a lot of times, well, we're outshooting the other team and we're losing. Or how come we're outshooting them so bad and we can't win? Well, maybe because our goalies are keeping pucks too. That's a good thing too, right? So something of a nugget that maybe when you're getting challenged, you can use back in return. Pick your spots on that one. That's not always great in the middle of a hockey game. Okay, another drifter from the point. Pretty good player that's shooting it. So again, they're going to work low to high. Again, we start to see the layers form. Now this one's a little tougher. You got a pretty good screen in front, a taller guy, and he's a lot more elevated than he wants to be here too. And the neat thing about these clips is we did this as a project. I sent this to Garand and I said, I want you to send me some clips and I want you to send me some feedback on the clips. So he sent all the clips and then he put his own claim on some of the clips and whatnot. And even when he wrote to me on this one, he goes, I don't want to be this elevated typically, but that's what it took to see and the first priority to see. So right, wrong, or indifferent, you know what? That's good. I mean, he's put a priority in vision and he's got to see more than anything. And so he's just not going to stay and do a blind and drop here, which he might be apt to do having to be that elevated. So do we want to blind and drop versus being that elevated? I think we want to see more than anything. And he does a good job of that. And as a result, he's rewarded. He's comfortable with being elevated more as he's progressed in his career. And he makes a pretty good save there. Okay. Keeps another puck. I think this is the last one, Gabe. That's what happens when you let the goalie pick his own clips. He saves this one for last. So here we go. We work the puck down low. And now here's that deception we're talking about. Here's a lot of things that we're talking about in terms of hesitation, trying to get it in one clip. He's walking to the net. Grant's got his separation. You know what? He's got to check, and he understands this. We pre-scouted this team. We have a sense for who they're going to here, but it doesn't mean it's always going to happen. So you can't just assume that that's going to happen. But it's a pass across. And to Scott's point this morning, he does a good job head first, tracks, gets a great route, comes across, and makes a pretty good save. So he you know what, he's the challenge for him is here to make sure that he can see the pass. If he doesn't see this pass, as much as tracking with his head, this is a pretty good play, you know, like a 60-foot pass, tape to tape, one timer, he's not going to get there. So the ability to see so that the passes are seen is critical there too. And then obviously the tracking and the head trajectory and head on the puck and battle with your head, all those coined phrases we'll talk about work pretty good there. You know, some of the things to try to develop these habits and details so that when we get in a game, we're ready to go. We don't have to be trying to learn on the job. The learning's done. Is, you know what, you need some good drills. And I think we're going to see through this process so many good drills come in. What I love about it is that everybody seems so willing to share their drills. I think it's great. You know, we have an expression in our business, just because you give, you know, a guy a scalpel doesn't mean he's going to know how to perform brain surgery. So don't be afraid to share your drills. We all still have our own, you know, unique ways of teaching that last 20% that nobody could ever take from you. And that's good. So, you know, share those drills. And for me in the drills, you just want to create a relevant screen. We're on a limited budget in junior hockey and more than minor hockey. So what do you do to create a good screen? Well, you got to create bravery, and sometimes something like we see here, just with some 4x4s, knowing the puck's going to go off a deflection board, the two guys in front are going to work hard to screen, and then maybe having them play it out for 5 seconds makes them work hard after. So things like that. So some things we use that really are not very fancy, but we'll get tires. You know, I give Woody credit on this one. You know, we stack 8 tires and we do that track from one side into the other side, push into pucks. It's really simple. Like, I don't know how safe it is to stack 8 tires. We picked some Honda Civic tires as opposed to some bigger tires, but works really good to track from one side to the other. The deflection boards that you see here, I think are really good. Using other goalies, you know, I'm on all the websites and the Twitter follows and in goals. Like, you guys do a tremendous job out there helping guys like me that are not doing this as a living, and pretty humbled by it. Tip drills with screens, other props and ideas. Just ask your goalies. I mean, you know, I remember being a goalie. You didn't have a coach, and I wasn't very good, but I love to learn about the game and watch and mimic what other goalies were doing. And the goalies today are the same, even though they have access to so much more resource and coaches and whatnot. They're still on the hunt and learning and thinking. So ask them. They've got a lot of cool ideas that they'll come up with. to help get the drills that are going to create the habits that are going to create the success in a game. So we'll go to Q&A. You know what? I'm close to on time here. Leave a little. Be nice on the Q&A, please. Like, don't beat me up here. I am the ninth batter for a reason. So yeah, if there's any questions, please go ahead.
I was going to say, there was a moment of shock there when I heard you talk about all the websites. There is only one website for goaltending. That would be no magazine, just so we know.
That's why I tried to moonwalk hard on that one. There was a song. You can't hear. There's no video. There's no music or sound in the video. You told me, but there was a real good moonwalk song on that one. So I was moonwalking hard.
Well, the good news is we have full editorial control in the editing process, so that one sentence might disappear. I'm going to move in Gordon up, so it looks like he has a question.
Oh, God. Be nice, Gordon.
Ian, as soon as your computer transfers, if anybody else has questions, make sure you raise your hand now. I see a couple coming in, or the Q&A. Ian, if you're ready to go with a question for Dan, fire away.
Hey, Dan, I got two questions. One, what is your attitude on goalies getting wide in traffic? You see a lot of guys get wide and low, almost to Scott, where you see the guy kind of settle low with the butt getting lower and the feet getting wider. And then my second part of this is I think one of the biggest adjustments on the junior side is traffic, as much as it gets even more amplified at the pro level. How do you approach the goalie that says to you, I didn't see it?
Okay, well, good questions. I think wide and low is a relative term. I think what's wide for one isn't wide for another. So again, if this is just a window into me. Okay, are you too wide? Well, can you see? Can you move? Can you actually move? Are you in a position where you can move? If getting low to see the puck is what you need to do, if vision's the priority, we're going to see the puck, then by all means get low. But you can't be so low or so hunched like we saw with Scott when he was looking at Copley today that you lose the ability to move and whatnot. So I'm not against being wide and low. You have to be able to move though, Gordo, for me. That's my answer to that. And it's different for every guy, and that's where practice really starts to flush that stuff out. I didn't see it. That's our job. Our job's to see it. So I understand it's going to happen at times, and I respect that. And I always say, this is one of my favorites. It's really easy from up top. The game is so easy, guys, and it's so easy from up there. But at the end of the day, it's our job to see. So not seeing, not our job.
All right, from Ian Gordon, we will go to Gord Woodhall with a question. Gord, fire away.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan, for that presentation. So for depth, like if your goaltender can't see they can't find it, too many layers, like do you have guidelines or parameters for their depth where you would want them? And then how might you change your sight lines for, like, I'm only about 5'10", so for me to look over a screen would be really tough. So what would you suggest for maybe shorter guys?
Okay, so the first one is the layers, and what do you do for depth? You know what? Obviously, if you can get your depth established early, then that helps with deciding what you want to do next. But I think for me, the everybody's a little different. Like some guys want to be tight to the screen, some guys want to back off the screen. Get to where you're comfortable, then work to see. I don't think that the layers dictate what my depth is. I think my strategy in the situation dictates depth. So right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what I think. I think shorter guys, inevitably, they're not going to be able to look over screens at times. So you're either going to look around a screen, or there's times where, we'll encourage guys that if they've got to get off angle, get off angle. And you know what? You're giving up on one side because you're taking more on the other side. And that's where that tire drill for me is huge. Being able to look one way and track through the screen onto the other side, the better you get at that, the more you might be willing to give up a little bit of angle to be able to see. So if priority is to see, give up some angle, move yourself over a little bit, even though you're not direct on angle, and that's kind of maybe uncomfortable. You know what? Seeing's a priority for me.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Good question. And you know what? All joking aside, I like that you say shorter. We say size. It's height. You know, short guys can have good size. They can be really strong. They can get a lot done.